The graphics layout media project is one additional way. Well, it's going to incorporate a couple of different types of media. And depending on how you use it in your project, it could be even an additional type of media. So the way we're going to do it tonight is we're going to focus on creating an interactive presentation where the user can navigate through the slides, and the content will build, and they can click on links and it'll take them to different slides and that sort of thing. And we're going to have like a table of contents and all that. You could do a linear one, but the problem with the linear one is it doesn't really meet some of the criteria here. But if you wanted to do a linear one for your project, you could do that. You could convert what you do here to video and have it as a more linear kind of project there, or a piece of media there. But tonight we're going to have edited images, we're going to have audio, we're going to have text and hypertext. So this is almost like a miniature graphics, a multimedia project without the web aspect of it, and it's going to be relatively limited in content. So you're just going to create a presentation. So from a PowerPoint or presentation tool component, you're going to have at least 8 slides or a comparable amount. So if you are doing something that doesn't use the term slides, something that was comparable to what would be on 8 slides would be fine. It must be narrated, and we'll talk about how to do that in PowerPoint. But if you're using other tools, and obviously the narration process might be different, you're going to have a title and closing slide. So already there's 2 of your slides, so really 6 content slides. It must contain internal links. So the slides must be linked to each other. Now we're going to use a table of contents and a home button tonight, but there's a lot of ways you can do this. All slides do not have to be linked together. So like in your websites, all of your pages had to be linked together, which makes sense for a web page or website. But in this, they don't. But what is critical is that it makes sense why they are or are not linked together. Does that make sense? So as I'm going through your presentation and I see one slide that's linked to another, but then I see some others that aren't, I don't want to be thinking, why is that one not linked to the other one? It should be seamless, okay? The build option must contain at least 2 external links. The build option must be used, and that's just a custom animation where the content is presented on the slide by mouse clicks or space bars or timing. It would be up to you how you would want to do that as well, but it must be kind of make sense as well. And again, you don't have to do the build option on every slide, but you want to do it in a way that is logical. So I don't want to be figuring out, why did they use the build option here, but they didn't use it here? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so it should make sense. You want to use consistent and appropriate transitions. You want to address design issues that we've talked about in the course, so consistency, contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. You want the navigation and usability to be clear and obvious. We'll talk about these. It must include a contact slide, so you could use that as maybe your closing slide. The 6x6 rule address. Does anyone know what the 6x6 rule is? Anyone? Bueller? Nope. So the 6x6 rule is essentially that on a slide, you don't have any more than 6 bullets with 6 words each. That's for this particular assignment, and it's more of a guideline, so I'm not going to count the bullets and to count the words. What I want to see is I don't want to see slides that are cramped with text and over cramped. So I'm not going to count out the words. And you may notice on my presentations, there's a lot of text and a lot more than 6x6. That's because I have a specific reason. I'm trying to transfer a lot of content in a relatively short period of time. This is a little bit different kind of instructional purpose. No grammatical or typographical errors, and then there's a clear navigational structure, and we'll talk about that as we move through tonight as well. The graphic components must contain at least 6 graphics. No bad clip art, I should say. You can use clip art if it's good clip art. You don't want to use clip art that's like extraneous or that sort of thing. The appropriate images must contain captions. So you can do this a variety of ways by describing the image or providing the source of the image if it's something you got off the web. It must have, the images must enhance the content, so no extraneous images. Now, if they're design, part of the design element, so like if you use like the UCF tab or something as a design piece, then that's fine. But you don't want to have like something that's taking away from the focus of the user. They're going to, from the content. At least one image must have a text overlay. It could be a label, a title, whatever. What is critical here is, and this is something that some people don't understand initially, the text overlay must be part of the image. So in Photoshop, I can just do a text box on top of an image. And in PowerPoint, I can do a text box on top of an image and it looks like it's there. That's not what I want. That's not sufficient. And I do move the images around to make sure it needs to be a piece of that image, part of that graphic file, so the JPEG or whatever it is. We'll talk about that today. And the reason for that is that if you wanted to take that image and use it in another piece of media, then to do that, it would have to be part of the image. So that's kind of the idea there. And also it gets you, it's a real basic function of image editing. So it gets you playing around with Photoshop and some other tools. At least 3 images are either developed or edited by you. So if you want to, create your own graphics, that's fine. You can do, like in PowerPoint, for example, you could do like a chart or something, and then you could just take a screenshot of it and tweak it, and that could be yours. Or it could be an existing image and you just have to do some sort of editing to it. Very important to include a description of how the images were edited in the notes section of PowerPoint, which is below each slide. And then one graphic, you could use like a background. That could be a background template, could be one of your images as well. All images are cited. So, if you're using a bunch of images from the web, make sure you cite them appropriately. If you're using your own images like photos or whatever, or you created it, make sure you put that in the notes. Say, hey, this image was from me. I created it in blah, blah, blah. And then the graphics address the visual principles, which we've talked about, started previously, but we'll continue that this week. And then presentation components, your narration should sound natural, so not like you're reading it from a script very robotically. You must be enthusiastic, like I always am when I'm doing these fabulous webinars. You must speak at an appropriate rate. You must limit ums and that sort of thing, like I do not often do in my announcements. Change your tone frequently. Provide advanced organizers. So advanced organizers are kind of the idea of when you write a paper, the general thing you've probably heard before. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So the advanced organizer are telling you what you're going to tell them. So what's this presentation about? As you transition from slide to slide, on the next slide, we're going to talk about this and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't have to be long, lengthy, just needs to kind of give some context, set the stage for the user, and then you just need to provide an effective conclusion. To submit it, you can Dropbox it to me. Depending on how you can, whatever the Microsoft, what is it called? What's the OneDrive? You can OneDrive it or whatever that is. Any way you want to get it to me. Yeah, there we go, OneDrive. Any way you want to get it to me is fine. If it's not huge, it'll probably fit in this. I need to update this description because it's kind of, I think it holds more than 20 megabytes now. The criteria are all here, point breakdowns. If you're going through them and have questions, just let me know, and I'm happy to kind of highlight or address any of those. Any quick questions before we get, I see one in the chat. Let me see. Yeah, Irene, there is also a 7x7 and an 8x8 rule. So like I said, the gist of it is don't cramp your slides with text, or don't cramp them, period. But okay, and that's more questions. So Veronica, is this meant to be about the same topic as our web shell? So my idea is yes. So you came up with the topic for your web shell. That's ultimately going to be your multimedia project, unless you change your mind. That's completely fine. You can change your mind. Things happen. But the idea is that all of your individual media projects are on the same topic, which is that multimedia topic, so that you can then, towards the end of the course, just take this graphics layout media project, throw it in your website, provide some context around it, you know, how the users are going to interact with it, what it's about, blah, blah, blah. And you're not recreating a bunch of stuff at the end, and you're creating stuff that's your final multimedia project, instead of being a bunch of YouTube videos, which is containing YouTube videos and stuff that other people created is fine, but it's a lot of your work. And that's kind of what I want to see you kind of creating that. So, but if you don't want to do it on your multimedia project, or you're still not sure what that's about, that's fine too. As long as you meet these criteria here, you're good to go. Okay. Ready? Okay. So I will kind of talk about something here. So just like last time, I mentioned with the web shell that I storyboarded, you know, I want to know what I'm doing. I want to know where I'm going. So I've kind of storyboarded this out. Y'all can't really see it, but I have a nice storyboard here for me to kind of walk through what I'm going to do. And I've collected all of my resources here. So I have all of my images for my PowerPoint here. I have them organized by file name so that I can integrate them in very nicely. You know, and this will make a lot of sense in a few moments. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get going with PowerPoint. And do I need to spend any time going over the interface for PowerPoint? Just kind of doing it as we go would probably work, because y'all are all, most of y'all have created a PowerPoint, right? Everyone? Yeah, okay. So we're just going to get started. And I'm going to kind of do a shell real quickly and just kind of put everything together, and then we'll go in and add the content later. So the title of mine is Gator and Oprah. Why? And then I'm going to put by Richard Hartshorn. And then I may put an image there later. So I'm going to go and just create a new slide. Now this new slide is going to be a table of contents. And I'm going to do Gator and Oprah. Okay. Sweet. It's taking forever. Awesome. I'm just going to tab over and go as a baby, as a teen. Come on. As, or in page. And then I'm going to do the same thing for Oprah. So I'm just going to copy these. Come on. Okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go new slide. And this one's going to be a two-slided. It's going to have an image on one side and content on the other. So I might do this one. And then I'm going to do just do Gator as a baby. Come on, this thing is super slow. I'm just going to now copy it, insert a duplicate slide. And then I'm just going to go change this to teen. I'm going to cut the slides that I'm going to do just because this thing is slow and it's so, all right. Okay. Bear with me. Everybody have a good weekend? Good Valentine's Day? All right, we're back. Okay. And then I'm just going to duplicate the slide. Come on. And then I'm just going to highlight these three, copy them, paste them, and then just go here and change this to Oprah. Change this to Oprah. All I'm doing is just being efficient. I'm trying to use copying and pasting as much as I want. But what I really did here also, let me go here. I'm going to add a new slide. And I'm going to say closing / contact. Okay. So now I'm going to go here and what I want to do is make links from this table of contents slide to each of those individual slides. Do y'all know how to do that? Some of y'all know how to do internal links? Most of y'all? So a couple ways of doing it. One is I can right click on it and go to where's that? Link. And then it gives me these options: existing file or web page, place in this document, create new document, or email address. Well, I want to link to another slide, so I want to select place in this document, and then it gives me that content there. So I just go, this one is Gator as a baby. So I click on it. I get this preview there. Good. Drag a slide onto the canvas, whatever. So here, same thing. I can go to link, Gator as a teen. I could also go up here and go insert link, Gator in middle age, Oprah as a baby, Oprah as a teen, Oprah in middle age, and then also I'll go closing / contact and delete this and make this a link. Link. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this real quick. File, save as. Gator and Oprah, perfect. Come on, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and start with the content. So here, well, actually one more thing I want to do is I want to insert a home page that gets me back to the table of contents. So when I click on Gator as a baby, it takes me to him as a baby, this slide, but there's no real way for me to continue navigating on. So what I want to do is insert a shape. So I go insert, and I go to shapes, and you'll see I have recently used shapes, lines, rectangles. So I have all these things that I could do really if I want to insert a bunch of different things here. But I want to go to the action buttons down at the bottom, and I'm going to select the home button, and I'm just going to drag and drop the home button. And it says when I do that, it gives me options here: action on click, none, or hyperlink to the first slide. So I just want to hyperlink to the first slide, right? No, I don't want to hyperlink to the first slide. I want to hyperlink to the table of contents slide, because this first slide is going to take them back to the title slide, and then they got to click space again to go to the table of contents slide. So I want to, again, be thinking about usability, not that you weren't. So I'm going to click slide ... So just one more time, hyperlink to, click the drop down arrow here, and then I get, next slide, previous slide, blah, blah, blah. I don't like to use next slide and previous slide, mainly in last slide and first slide, because if I go in and add slides later, then that could mess up the order. So I like to be kind of hardwired to specific slides. So I go slide dot, 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 and then I pick table of contents. Okay. And I click OK. Now, if I like that color, I'm fine with it, but I can go up here and change the color scheme. Since we are UCF, we'll go with sort of a weird gold color, give it a black outline. So you can kind of stylize these a bit. You can make them thicker. You can do kind of preset kind of items like that. You can play around with it and however you want to do it. But then I'm just going to copy it. And then I'm going to go to I don't want it on the table of contents slide. That's dumb to have it on its own slide. So I'm going to cut it. But I'm going to go here, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it. And if I was smart, I would have done that before I created each of those individual slides. But I'm not that bright, so it didn't really help out too much there. Now, I might go to this to the inside here, and I want to have well, we'll come back to that later. All right, so now I want to start adding some content and playing around with it. So I'm going to go Gator as a baby, and this is an image. So I'm going to click on the pictures.
Dr. Hartshorn?
Yep.
A small question. Does the home button have to have an image? Can it just not be a link that says home?
That's a great question. Yeah, it can be an image. It can be text that just says home. It could be, you could have, because think you might have click here to go to the next slide, or you might have home, next, and back. So however you want to do it, it's fine. It doesn't have to be an image at all.
So if it's just a word, can we just use the same system of just making it right clicking and using it as a link?
Definitely. Yep. Yeah. So the key thing there is if I right click here, link. So here you would just go, table of contents. Yeah, so that's all you would do. Same thing. So, okay, cool. So I'm going to go Gator as a baby, click on pictures, and I have these kind of already set up. So this one is, where's it at? Gator as a baby. There's Gator as a baby. I might kind of come around here, maybe make it a little bigger. It has alt text already, but you can go ahead and so they automatically generated some alt text. This is a new feature for screen readers and things. So I'm not requiring alt text, so you want to highlight that. I could also do that via a caption. So I could go to insert text box down here for a caption, just highlight. And I would also recommend using these, like the little, you notice little red lines that came up. Those are great for aligning content and stuff. So I could say Gator on his way to Charlotte. I might make this a little bit smaller, center it, kind of play around with it, stylize it a little bit to make it look good. You probably have y'all all heard rules about you want the font to be at least this big and that sort of thing. That's kind of doesn't matter, because depending on how big the screen is and how big the projector is away and how big the monitor is, that's all going to really influence what the user is seeing. So there really isn't like a minimum maximum kind of size for font sizes and that sort of thing. So Gator as a baby, let's just see, huge ears, super cute, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my next one here. Gator as a teen, again, picking an image. Gator as a teen. Okay. Failed driver's test 3 times. With moving on. And this is not autobiographical, people. So if y'all are thinking that I went to prom with my mom, not my sisters. All right, Gator is middle age. So Gator in middle age. Okay, and we'll come back and we may put stuff later, we'll see. But then we have Oprah as a baby. So again, Oprah, baby, boom. Kind of you want the images to be relatively the same size. Again, captions, height, all those things are these are different proportions. So you'll notice here that, this is a vertical, this is a horizontal. So obviously they're not going to be the same image sizes, but you want it to be kind of proportioned on the screen appropriately. So this one's kind of, you can kind of get an idea of the width of them, and you can actually double click on it and see this. The width is 5.3. So here I might try to make, so this right here, make it 5.3. These aren't exact, but you're just going to want to kind of have them relatively consistent here. Okay, so here. Rescued from Harrisburg Humane Society. A couple things too, like this is Colibri Light. So this is Colibri and this is Colibri. So you're going to want to be relatively consistent. So this could be fine, but you might want to make it all Colibri Light. I don't know, is it Calibri? I don't know, however you say it. Make it all the light version just for consistency's sake, but that's kind of as long as it doesn't jump out. One of the issues is if you see things that are just slightly off, it creates a visual conflict. Okay, so how many of y'all have been reading a paper and it's like 12 font, and then maybe somebody accidentally made it 11 font, and you're not sure what it is, but there's something kind of off, and your brain is like having trouble kind of working with it. That's that visual conflict. So if I have like fonts that are just off, like color-wise or size-wise or style-wise, that conflict comes out. Sometimes you don't even recognize it. So again, sort of what we want things to do is we want them to be very different. So for contrast or identical. Now style, like heading, obviously the font size can be different because it's a heading, so it establishes a hierarchy. But what you don't want to do is have like the heading is 43 and then the rest of the content is 42, because it creates that sort of visual conflict. So okay, so now here, where are we at time-wise? Okay, so we're good. So what I want to kind of highlight here is how to do the build option. So right now, let me just kind of save this. As I watch this, okay, so here when I click on Gator as a baby, where's the, hold on a second, let me pull over the, okay, so here we go. Goes back to the Gator as a teen, in middle age, Oprah as a baby, Oprah as a teen, we haven't put the content there, Oprah in middle age, and then closing contact. So all of the interactions there, but all this content pops up at once, which isn't a huge deal with small amounts of content. Bear with me a moment here, let me get this kind of set up. But you want to, if you have like 6 slides or 6 bullets or something, you're going to want them to kind of appear one at a time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to go to animations. And I like to be simple and boring. So I'm going to select, you have all these fun animations here. Don't use them. If anybody uses the laser where the letters pop in by laser or the typewriter, I will fail you. I promise you, I will fail you. I will find ways to take points off, I promise. So I'm just going to use the appear option. You don't have to use that one, but don't use the laser. Probably shouldn't use this, like the ones that kind of don't do those either. Okay. So now notice that they're all 1. Can anyone tell me what that 1 means?
Which one is first?
What's that?
They'll come in at the same time.
Yeah, on the first mouse click or spacebar. So what's going to come in at first is going to be this image, this caption, and this right here because I haven't animated them. And then these will then all come in as one big chunk of information on my next viewing. So if I click on this real quickly, and boom, that's what happens. Okay, so these are how this comes in. So if I wanted to be kind of more accurate, I'm going to undo these, or I'm going to select all these and just delete them. Okay, and I'm going to select all this content. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to leave the heading there because it's going to come in automatically, and I'm going to select the home button. So then I'm going to give it the appear, and now everything's kind of highlighted as ones. This is number 3, and then this is 1, 2, and 3. Well, what I want to happen is I want the image, I want the header and the image and the caption to be there when the user comes there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and the text box, and I'm going to say start with previous. So that means it's going to change it to 0. So that means the header is 0, or the heading, and then each of these are 0. So they're going to appear all at once. Does that make sense? Okay. And then this is going to be huge ears 0, 1, and 2. So I want these to go. I want huge ears to be starting on click. So, and you can click on the drop down here. It's going to give you the same effect. So it's going to, but it's assuming that you want all of those to start on click. So it just cuts down on time. And then I want this one down here, the action button, to also to actually highlight this one. I want it to be a 3 because once the 3 pops up, this third bullet here, that's the end of my content. So I want the user to know, hey, there's no more content. So now you can click on the home button and go back. Does that make sense? So here, let's just look at what this looks like. So here, so huge ears, super cute, rescued from the Harrisburg. Now this popped up, so they know, okay, I'm cool to go back to the table of contents now. Okay, so now let's get a little bit more here. I want to, as I'm narrating this, I want them to focus on what I'm talking about. I don't want them to focus on what the previous bullet was or the next bullet is. So what I want to do then is I want to highlight all of these. Actually, I want to highlight these 2. And I go to effect options, and I'm going to go to after animation. I want it to kind of gray out. Okay. And so what's happening now is, okay, Gator is a baby, he's super cute, blah, blah, blah. He has huge ears. I'm going to talk about his ears for a second. Then this grays out. So now they're focusing on how unbelievably super cute he was as a baby. Not so much nowadays, but was super cute as a baby. So they're focusing on me talking about that. And then now I'm talking about the rescue from the Harrisburg Humane Society. Why do I not gray this out? Because I'm not talking about any other bullet points, and they should now go and scroll that, click on there to go back and navigate through the rest of the presentation as it is. Does that make sense to everyone? Y'all getting it? Yes? Okay. All right. So, so then, yeah, there we go. So let's look at some, I'm not going to go and add all the content for this. Is everyone good with that? Okay. So one thing I will do here is the Harrisburg Humane Society. So one of the requirements are 2 external links. So this would be a great opportunity for me to link to the Harrisburg Humane Society. So here it's an existing file or web page. So I would just go to I have no idea if that's the actual URL. I would go to the site and copy and paste the URL in here, because then I could go, hey, if you're interested in, that's what I would talk about in that particular element aspect of things. So just copy and paste your URL in the external. So you could right click and do it that way. edit the link. Make sure you select existing file or web page. And if you want to do an email address, so if I go back up to my Gator and Oprah here, I'm going to right click here, link, email address, and then I'm just going to put Richard Hartshorn at .hartshorn@ucf.edu. And I can also put Gator and Oprah presentation. So when I get an email, I know what it's in reference to. When I get an email from somebody interacting with this, I know what it's in reference to. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at image editing. So I am going to go down to the closing slide here. And I don't want this particular layout, so I'm going to go to Home, Layout, and I'm just going to use this particular layout here. And PowerPoint does try to be smart, and it has a lot of additional features now. So there are some cool layout ideas and things that you can kind of play around with. But the picture that I'm going to use is this right here. And it's a bad picture, and you can see they have layout ideas here, kind of different stuff you can kind of play around with. It's a really blurry picture, so, but you can play around with those. But let's say, so I mentioned earlier that the images must be edited. So if we want to edit this image, let's say I really want to make this, I like that picture, so I'm going to make this one here, maybe like a pixelated thing. So this will count as an image edit, because I don't want everyone to freak out when they see Photoshop and go, I know it's rather complicated, and I actually took an entire graduate class pretty much on Photoshop. So there's so much you can do in Photoshop. I don't want to stress everyone out. So I do want to see more than changing opacity and cropping images. I want to see some basic things, but don't stress out if you go into Photoshop and go, oh goodness, I have no idea where to start. So here you can use some of the basic image editing tools in PowerPoint to modify this. So if you wanted to kind of do some artistic effects, and maybe I want to do this little pixelated thing there, perfect. And then I would just go down to the notes section and say used pixelated effect in PowerPoint. And if you own the image, here I would just say own image, something like that. But now I do want to show you how to do some things in Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up here. And so Photoshop, you'll see you have your file, your edit, your image, your layer, your type, your select, your filter, your 3D, your view, your window. All of these are associated with, so file, edit, image, those are things that are just basic tools of all of the Adobe Creative Cloud suites. Then we get into layer and type and select and filter and 3D. Those are things that are really focused on what Photoshop does, and that's image editing. With Dreamweaver, those tabs were really more focused on web authoring and web editing. And the video editor of Adobe Premiere, guess what those menu items really are focused on? If you said editing videos and things that you do associated with that, you're going to be right. So so they have their basic interface, but then they also have very specific things to what they do. So I'm going to open my Gator and Oprah image here. And this is just the Gator Oprah image in a second. Okay, so much better image. So I want to, so I'll highlight a few things here. One of the colors, so I can click on this with the color dropper. Where's it at? Here. And so I have this color dropper. I could click on this anywhere in here, and it does a perfect color match. Y'all have seen that in other tools. But if you're trying to match colors exactly, that's a nice little tool here. Just and this is your this is my foreground color and this is my background color. So if I were to like fill in this area here up top, if I wanted it to be white, I could select it with they have a magic wand here. And I could select that, and you can see, you can change the tolerance of it. So if I wanted to maybe make it a little more tolerant. So now it gets into some of the cat, which I don't want to do. So I kind of want to go up and maybe make it like a 40 tolerance. Let's try that. So yeah, so there, so do you see what I did there? So that selects all of the color of a specific area, and the tolerance is how specific it's getting. So if I wanted to pick on that particular pixel, I could give it a tolerance of 1, and it's only going to pick that one little pixel color. So then I could go here, and I'm going to, if I go edit, where's that here? Edit, fill, and I'm going to go with the foreground color, and it's going to make it white. And why didn't it do it? Oh, because it's the background layer. Let me give it a new layer here. Yeah, all right, well, being a pain. Okay, so what I want to do, so one of the real power of Photoshop is in this idea of layers. So I could copy this right here as many times as I want. So I could, where should I copy? So if I wanted to kind of go turn things on and off in the layer, so if I wanted to mess with Oprah here, I could, and do something, I could turn that on and off, and it's going to give a different effect. So if I took this background layer here, and let me see if I can select her. Okay, so I select her, and this is terrible, but I am going to go edit, fill. It's not going to work. Edit. Yeah.
You can't see the layer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. So I'll do the foreground color. Okay, so let's see. The opacity is the problem, I'm guessing. No. Why it's not doing it fully? It's weird. But I could then, like, let's say I don't like that effect, I could turn it off. So I could turn these on and off and make different images. So like I could just go File, Save As, Gator Oprah 1 with the kind of brownie effect here. And then I could turn that off, go Gator Oprah 2, and it's going to be with the black and tiger kind of tabby kind of colors. So you could really play around with this a lot and do different effects. So in PowerPoint, let's say I wanted to have like my kids play a game, and if they got something right or close, a bullet on a target would pop up. So I could do that very easily within Photoshop. I could create like a target and then have different bullet layers turn off based on how close they were to it. Or there's a lot of different things you could do with it. But then another thing I want to do is show you how to do, you can do text. So, and that's a requirement. So if I just click the text icon, I can see I want to select a similar font as what I'm using in my presentation, just for consistency purposes. So I'm just going to use Calibri. Let's see if there's a light. And there is. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to leave it at 36 point, and I'm going to leave it at white. And I'm just going to go down here and just say Gator and Oprah. Obviously that's too big, so I'm going to select it all. Maybe make it down to like a 24. And once I want to move things over, I go to that up here and just drag it around and get it to where I want it. So this right here is kind of your toolbar. So I have moving, I can do like different selections. I can do like a marquee tool and select like oval things. And so if I wanted to go here and select this and then delete it, well, because I'm not on I'm on the text layer. I'm gonna go here, select that layer and then delete it. And then it's gone until I turn that back, until I turn the other layers back on. So you could, this right here is a magnetic wand. So if I wanted to select something, I can kind of go around and, oops, and it kind of magnetizes to sort of the border of it. So I'm not clicking or anything. It's just doing that based on how I'm moving my mouse. So if I wanted to like delete this background area here, I could then just go delete. I'm on the wrong one. Go here, delete. And it'll get rid of it. It will do it, I promise. It's just a pain right now. This right here is for cropping. So if I wanted to crop stuff very easily, this right here is that selected color selector. So if I wanted to make this my foreground color, and then if I click here, I can make his little beans my background color. I mean my foreground color, and then you can rotate these back and forth for just changing colors. The Band-Aid, I'll show you this thing, and actually let me save this one a little bit. So File, Save As. I'm just going to call it Gator Opera Text. So now notice here that I have options. I'm going to first save it as a JPEG, and that flattens my image. I'm going to do text. Let me do this. That flattens my image. So this is no longer these layers no longer exist on that particular file. But if I go File, Save As, and save it as a Photoshop document, then all of these layers exist still. So if I wanted to come in and re-edit it, then I can do that in the Photoshop document. If I opened up that JPEG document, it's good. Could I do it? Yeah, but it's going to be a pain because I got to go in and be real like particular with all of this stuff here. Does that make sense? So as a multi-layer, I can turn this layer off, and I have and turn this layer off, turn this layer back on, and I have back to I can play around. I have a lot of power with manipulating this image now. Okay. So layers is really where your power is in Photoshop. You can do cool gradient things. And again, I'm not going to get into this too much just because it's super, super complex, but you can see here your basic file, new open stuff, edit. You'll see things that just you don't see. Fill is like, it's going to allow you to fill the layer that's selected. Your image, you can change your image size, your canvas size, you can rotate things, you can trim things. So like if I had a color, let's say white, for example, and I want to trim a lot of time, trim it down to where the white isn't in it. It just is right around that particular shape. Then you can trim it. There are lots of things you can do here. Layers, you can kind of do a lot of stuff you can do with the layer styles. You can give them gradients, inner shadows, inner glows. There's tons and tons of stuff here. I'm not going to get into that. I'll just kind of stop there. But really, this is what I mean with by making the text part of the image. So, okay. So you can't do that in PowerPoint. Okay, so
Dr. Hartshorn?
Yep.
One question. So whatever edits we make with the photo, do you need a before and after photo, or just in the notes we can say the edits that we've made?
Yeah, just say the change you make in the notes. So I'll trust you. I don't need a before after. So if you like in some of them, and maybe they're too dark and you increase the contrast, then you could say I increase the contrast or increase the brightness, or from by or to this or something like that. So it doesn't have to be super detailed or anything like that. I would like to see. I know some of y'all have never used Photoshop before, and are going to go basic, and that's fine. I understand that. But I know some of y'all have used Photoshop extensively, or at least somewhat extensively. So you'll probably do a little bit more advanced things. So it's really up to y'all what you do. Thanks, Matt. Matthew, I always do that. I'll forget to look the layer. The reason it wasn't doing it is because the layer I was on was locked. I don't know if you saw the lock there. Yeah, so Canva, Cindy, you can definitely use Canva. That's fine. And Jamie, it is definitely fine to use the design ideas that PowerPoint gives you. Just keep them. The big thing is everything needs to make sense. So if you're using one sort of style of the design idea and then a completely different style on the next slide and then a very different additional stuff, it gets kind of convoluted and there's no real consistency. So as long as you're consistent with that, then you should be good to go. Okay. All right. I think that's all of the, so let me real quickly go here. I did want to show one more thing. Sorry. So I'm gonna go back to Photoshop. I closed it. Awesome. How are we doing on time? All right, we're gonna be done relatively quickly here, so promise. So Mika, if you want to use images that you can access as part of your job, that's fine. Just let me know that. So cite that in your project. So let me just kind of see. Let's kind of see. Okay. So just real quickly, I know you can see these images here. All I did, this is a colleague of mine. He does a sources conference, and he wanted me to do a poster for him. So I played around with different colors. So I created one image, and then I just turned the different colors on and off as the background, as the banner here, and let him pick which one he wanted. This is all like one image, and I just turned things on and off. So you can kind of see I gave him 8 choices, and it took me about 30 seconds to do each of those once the main one was created there. So, okay, open. So another thing that's kind of cool here is this Band-Aid feature. So it's a healing brush tool, and you can select part of the screen that you want to get rid of and replace it with part of the part of the screen, the image that you select. So let me just kind of copy this real quick. Okay. So here, if I want to get rid of this mole, so I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to kind of try and find, like, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to try and find a color that would kind of match that. And I could do over here, but that doesn't really match it perfectly. So I'm going to kind of select up here. I'll click. So I say, and then you can kind of see it there, and then I kind of go there, and it kind of replaces the mole there. So you can take pieces of a certain area and replace it with pieces of that's pretty decent. So I'm good with that one. So I would then just save this and save it as a JPEG, or I would save it as a PSD if I wanted to go ahead and play with other items. But you could also go and mess with different colorations of other stuff as well. This does bring us to our confirmation code for today, which is the mole. The confirmation code is the mole. I'll put it in the chat window. And it doesn't have to be caps. I don't care about that. Okay. But I did want to, this is the Band-Aid is kind of a cool feature. The healing brush tool is a cool feature as well. You can get rid of things like if I'm clicking here, it has different effects based on how you use it and where you use it. But it's a cool little tool that I wanted to kind of highlight. So I'm not going to cancel that. Okay. No. And then I'm just going to save this and let me see if I'm missing anything. On the end one here, I'm going to cancel. Click here. So my last bullet point, click here to end show. If I right click on this and go to link and go to, actually, whoops, I'm sorry, go to, insert action, not link, and then go hyperlink to ... in show, and then click OK. So now I have I'm going to do a summary. I'm going to provide my contact information, and that's probably going to build, depending on if it's like a summary, those are going to build individually, most likely, like using the animated, the build option. But if I'm just providing contact information, am I going to build that? Am I going to build my name and email and phone number? There's no real reason for that, so I'm not going to do that. But so I might have all that up here all at once. It's really up to you. But just make sure that everything makes sense. So now if I go up to the top here and play it, okay. I would build those, obviously. In middle age, I would have bullet points building there. Boom. Okay, last item, narration. So now I want to narrate these slides. And again, you don't have to have narration on every slide, but it has to make sense. So to do this, you would simply go to audio, and you can do audio on my PC or record audio, PowerPoint. Okay. I don't know why I'm not able to record it. Oh, because I'm on my desktop. So it's not letting me do audio because I'm on my desktop. So what you would do here, though, is you could record so you start the recording, and you would then narrate, and what's going to happen, you would narrate it as if you were reading it and presenting it, or however you wanted to do. So what I would do is I would provide some narration on introducing what this PowerPoint is, what it's about. Then I would go to the next slide, and then I would say, provide some context on how they're interacting with the slideshow. So here is a table of contents. You can click to any slide at any point in time, blah, blah, blah. To get back to the home, to this slide, click on the home button at the end of each slide, again, which would be building last after all of the content. Then, do I need content? Do I need narration here? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what the purpose of your individual slideshow is. So I would probably narrate this, narrate this, narrate this, and just kind of keep going through it. If you mess up, and once you're done and you mess up, hit escape, and that'll take you out of the recording feature. Now, what's important is let's say I did slides 1 through 3, great, and I messed up on number 4. When I go back to re-record, if I start on slide 1, that's going to delete everything I did before. If I click here and go to audio, go record audio, it's not going to allow me to do it. But what it would say is from the beginning or from this slide. I would click from this slide and then move on and continue on until I was done with what I needed. Then I would save it and I'm good to go. Okay, that's it for now. Do I need to do a narration, like quick little video and post it in the course, or are y'all good with this, you think? So Mika, yeah, you can record one slide at a time. You can also if you're familiar with audio editing, you can record on your PC and then import the audio files. So you could do one slide at a time, call it slide 1, slide 2, and then you can just import it into the slide. So I would go insert, where's it at? Insert audio, and I would just find the audio here and insert it on this particular slide, and then do it on slide 2 and other slides.
When I've done, Dr. Hartshorn.
Yep.
So if I like to, in my classes, record on each individual slide because then the kids don't have to rewind. And usually there's a button. Is there a button on the slide? Will that come up? I know you can't record right now.
So usually what happens is there's a speaker icon.
Okay.
And you can control whether it starts automatically or whether it starts after a certain period of time or whether they click on it. You can control how it's interacted with or
Okay.
how it starts or stops. So yeah. And like when I'm doing if I'm converting it to something, I'll actually drag the speaker icon off of the slide, like over here. I would take it, move it over here, so that when they're playing it, it's not part of it. So I don't want them interacting with it. So I'll take it off the slide entirely, because if they see it, they think it's a button or something like that, when sometimes I don't want them interacting with it. So, okay. So are y'all good without me doing a video, or do I need to do a video on just a quick? I mean, I'm not going to do it now, but post it with this. Would that be useful or not? Everyone's good. All right, do y'all understand what I'm asking? Okay. All right. Well, if I'm not going to do it, but if y'all have questions, then that's perfectly fine. I'm going to let y'all go now because I've used. Oh wait, I got some questions. Okay. So I'll do a video. I can do a video. Okay, I'll do a video. I'll just do it as a little aside to this. I have I'll do it on my Mac, because I think the issue is that it's trying to access audio from my remote desktop. I think that's the issue. So we'll see. Okay. Any last minute questions?
Dr. Hartshorn?
Yes.
With the audio, if the audience is interacting, they're clicking and the next bullet point comes in, how do you work the audio in that you're talking about the bullet point that's bold and not gray?
So that's a good question. So that's where you want to determine how much control or how much interactivity the audience has with it. So if you're narrating every slide, what you're going to want to do is have the bullets come up on a timer, okay, up here on a timer, and not have them interacting with it. But if you're maybe providing narration initially and at certain strategic points, and then at other points you want the user to navigate on their own, then you would give them that control. Do it sort of on mouse clicks or on space bar clicks and that sort of thing. Does that make sense? It just depends on how you implement it. I was kind of really just showing you the different things you can do, and then you can figure out the best ways to meet whatever your goals are with it. And again, it doesn't have to be PowerPoint. It can be whatever presentation tool you want to use. And you have a while. I think you have a couple weeks, maybe a few weeks. Does anyone know the due date? Did anyone notice it? March 7th, so 3 weeks. So cool. All right. Any last minute questions?
I had a question, Dr. Hartshorn. When I go to record audio where it says name, should I do, for example, if I was talking about my table of contents, would I put that as the name, table of contents? Or
Yeah,
can
I mean, you can do that. You can call it slide 0 or slide number. It would be up to you, whatever makes sense to you.
Okay.
Then you're just importing that file. Doing table of contents or whatever, naming it as the slide header is a good practice because it gives you that context, so you know exactly which one goes with what.
Okay. And I do remember. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll do that in the video as well. So I'll do it one way where you record it as you go through the slide presentation, And then I'll do
Okay.
it another way where you record it and import it. So,
I do remember doing this at the beginning of this school year, and I will say that there were a lot of bloopers and I had to erase a lot and keep redoing it over and over and over again because of timing. Like that's one thing, going back to what Shazia asked, if you're timing those bullet points, you have to like know exactly when to talk. So
yeah,
this is key when it comes to recording.
there is like a practice function that I'll highlight in the video.
Cool.
Because it'll allow you to set up your timings and stuff like that pretty easily. So,
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
anything else? All right. Well,
Sorry, I
Okay.
had a question about something else, not concerning the class in total, but it has to do with the multimedia project. So
Okay.
should I just wait for
so
the?
I'll just say this:
go?
everyone is free to leave, and I'll keep recording for any of this last minute questions. Anyone can go, and then we'll, if you want to hang out and listen to the questions or have other questions, that's completely fine, but definitely not required. So, but make sure you submit the code because I haven't figured out a way to do that yet. So, thanks, y'all. Okay, so
Thank you.
Shazia, go ahead.